because I'm going to play a few words from a song, and then we'll kind of brainstorm a little bit to see what you think those words mean. And then that'll be the underpinnings for our discussion. So there are two challenging things here. One is, did I time it right on my iPhone? Because I'm not going to play the whole song. And is the Bluetooth still working from here? But this is Toby Keith from an album in 2005 called As Good As I Once Was.
I still hang out with my best friend, Davey. I know him since we were kids in school. Last night he had a few shots, got in a tight spot. I slept in a pool with a couple of redneck boys, one great big fat biker man. I heard David get across the room. Hey, buddy, how about a helping hand? I said, hey, I ain't as good as I once was. How the years have flown. But there was a time back in my prime that I could really hold my own. If you want to fight tonight, guess those boys don't look all that tough. I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good as I ever was. I used to be.
Woo!
I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good as I ever once was. So what does that say to you, Maria?
Just everything that you built up to. Now you're as good as you can be.
Yeah. Other thoughts? What's he saying?
Back then he was great.
Well, he's admitting that he can't do what he once did. And that could be depressing. But at the same time, he's saying, but I do remember I once was as good as I ever was. And I had a peak, and it was good. And so he's accepting that. And I use this as an example of things that can go on in our life that can cause you to be thinking of negatives, that can cause you to wake up in the morning saying, oh, I've got another day. Because physical ailments and the like can really overpower everything. And this isn't just for us older folks. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I had to give up a professional football career because some guy hit me with an illegal block. So I had to move on. And there have been other examples in every decade of everyone's lives that you've had a struggle and you've had to move on. The question is, how do you do that well? The project meant that I had to think about this. And in theory, there was a little thing to fill in for 10 days, but I've been doing this for 8 decades almost. So I didn't have to think about each day. And because I've been struggling with this for that long. And then what do you do to deal with it? So my talk today is I'm going to break it into 2 parts. One is, how do I have my conversations with myself? And then how do I impact others? And can I measure that? Can I sense it? Can I feel it when I do impact others? So I'm going to first talk about my conversations with myself. And this isn't magic. It isn't proprietary. There are lots of resources out there. But my approach is twofold. Number one, you have to purge the bad stuff out of your head. You've got to get rid of all the nagging. And then secondly, you need to fill it with good stuff. My brain is a sponge. I can only hold so much. I used to say that to my teachers. It didn't hold so well, but you can only hold so much. So my trick for purging is certain sayings. And serenity prayer is pretty well known. It's part of the Al-Anon tradition. But the serenity prayer basically says, don't try to deal with stuff you can't deal with. It's out of your control. And so if I have to say that to myself 10 times a day, I'm going to say that to myself. And there are some other great sayings as part of the Al-Anon tradition. Let go and let God. We happen to have an addict as a son. There are things you can't control, and you cannot go through your life trying to control it. So those sayings help purge. Now, when do I have these conversations? I have found that the best time of day and night has to do with a pillow. There are two things. One is, how do you get to sleep without laying there worrying? And the other is, when you open your eyes in the morning, how do you get out of bed with an excited, enthusiastic, ready to go kind of day? So those are the two times for me when I have these kinds of, you could call it mindfulness. It can be part of meditation. There are a lot of terms for it, and people can do it at different times of the day. But that's when I have these conversations. So if you can get it out of your head at night, focus on the positive, you can get to sleep quickly. And when you wake up in the morning, you focus on the positive. So Al-Anon helps me get stuff out of my head. How do I get stuff, good stuff, positive stuff into my head? I'm a Stephen Covey fan. And in fact, I was such a fan, I used to teach it back in the days before we had handheld calendars and everything else. I really had a cool book, and everything was there. There are two key parts of Covey that I think best contribute to waking up with a positive attitude. One is plan, but it's not just plan your business life, but plan your entire life. And that was one thing that Covey focused on, is you are more than just a business person or a boss or a student. You have multiple roles, and many of them are personal. And so what can happen, and it happened to me, is you get so focused in a business, you kind of sacrifice part of the personal life. So the key is plan the personal life as well. The other key is focus on the important things, not the crucial time nagging things. Some of them aren't very important, but the important things are important. The other one is sharpen the saw. You have to continually be learning and growing and trying new things and be willing to venture out. So if you wake up every morning with a day already planned, and you make sure your week's well planned, so you don't sit in the morning over coffee and say, oh, what am I going to do today? You want to be able to look forward to something fun and new and different every day. And when you do that, you will come across in a much more enthusiastic and positive way. So how do I know if it's working? My best monitor is my work at Evergreen Hospital, both as a wayfinder at the information desk, as well as retail support in the gift shop. When I am too lively and I make jokes with people, I can find that I can put my foot in my mouth if I don't constantly remember that not everybody is from the same personality profile that I am. So I have to learn to listen and be very careful, particularly in the wayfinding area. People that come to a hospital and are looking for something are usually highly distressed. They're either on their way or with their spouse on their way to have some surgery that makes them very nervous, or they need to find the emergency room because somebody in their family just was brought in with an ambulance. So listening and understanding allows you to adjust your dial as to what you can say and do and talk about. But once you get a clue as you're walking towards wherever they're going, they want to talk, some of them, and it's great. You can talk with them and they're happy as clams. The key thing I always remember, though, whenever I'm taking somebody someplace in the hospital, is that they almost every case come out of their appointment or situation and they have no clue how to find their way back to the car. So I always try to remind them to follow the blue dots to get back to the blue garage so they can find their way out. So by that, every time I interact with a customer or a visitor, I have like a pulsing reaction to my overexuberance, and I have to balance it out. But that's the key to this whole thing. Purge the bad thoughts out, find a way that works for you, and find a way to look forward to every day when you wake up. And build plans in. I even make lists. And if I do a task and it isn't on the list, I go and write it on the list so I can scratch it off, because that makes for a really great day when you have a long list with things scratched out. So that's basic the approach to understanding yourself. Do your best job to spoil yourself with positive thoughts and good sleep and good diet, and do your best job of listening to other people. But the key is going forward, respect everyone, but fear no one. That's another saying to remember. And the other one is, if you say you can or you say you can't, you're going to always be right. Thank you.